Red lights up. Okay, welcome everyone to the City of Villa Rica Planning Commission on May the 30th at 6 o'clock, or a little bit after. First, we have a call to order, and the first item is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I make a motion, we adopt.
Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries 3-0, or 4-0. You voted. Okay. All right, next up is old business. The minutes for the March 28th meeting was postponed, and okay. All right. Not to vote on. Okay. All right. We can look at that. So we don't have to vote on that, so we could just move on? Okay. All right, next up is new business, rezoning and annexation for ANX 01. Who wants to read that?
Good evening. This is a request. Can everybody hear me okay?
No.
It's on.
Come
It's
get
on
the
green.
microphone. Come get the microphone off the other.
That's on.
Good evening. This is a request for an annexation with a concurrent rezoning. This is annexation 0117 with concurrent rezoning RA 0217. It's two related items. I'd certainly like to take the discussion together and then any action separately. The applicant is Green Community Development, and it's represented by Mr. Christopher Hunt. Green Community Development is at 5456 Peachtree Boulevard, Atlanta, Georgia. This request is under the 100% annexation method, and this is for properties that's located along 903, 905, 1001, 1009 South Van Wert and Zero Church Road. The request is to annex this property and rezone it to planned development in the city of Villa Rica. Staff has, just to give a very quick summary for those who haven't previously been here, the property is currently zoned agricultural in Carroll County with a 4-acre minimum. And again, this request is to go to planned development. The property, the application has been modified, is roughly just over 16 acres, 16.9, I believe, acres. In evaluation of the applicant's request, this application would, just so that everyone is aware, what we did was evaluate it based upon what, in terms of a future land use designation, is the least intensive land use designation that the city has, which was residential, which allows for 1 to 4 dwelling units per acre. While staff did find that this request would be consistent with what they are proposing and the overall number of acreage that they have, the total net density that they would allow for would be consistent with the proposed future land use designation. There were several other considerations that staff wanted to certainly bring to the commission's attention. So, the proposal currently, as presented, the site plan, there was some additional information that we certainly thought would be incredibly helpful in terms of the valuation that just is not available at this time. I'll hold. So in terms of the applicant's proposal, sewer, this is in an area that is designated outside of the urban growth area. So in terms of future plans, as it relates to the comprehensive plan, this is an area that is supposed to remain non-sewered. The city has no plans, based on the comprehensive plans, to extend sewer to this particular location. As such, the proposal for community septic requires that we give a lot of consideration when it comes to the particular layout of this plan development. Typically, plan development is something that you would closely evaluate the site plan and site design and overall layout. At this particular time, there is no information that has been provided to the city as it relates to a soil investigation and the suitability of that particular site to accommodate a community septic. So what we're not able to successfully do is really look at the site design and the layout to find out, number one, ultimately what would be not just the total number of lots that would be laid out, but also essentially how much open space we really need to have set aside for such things as a replacement field should, if you are able to install community septic, being able to long-term, if there are issues that are related to replacement of a community septic system, there is a requirement, of course, by the state that you set aside that amount of land available to accommodate that. So again, not just the total number of lots that'd be allowable, but where and how are you going to accommodate community septic on site, and where and if it is even suitable to do so. So that's one of the primary factors in looking at the approving and evaluating a site as planned development that certainly cannot be ignored, or is just a little bit too premature to look at designating planned development for this particular site, since those are some of the considerations that have to be made. If I had to just really quickly talk about some of the other things that from a zoning perspective, I think those are the two highlights that needs to be brought to the attention. Some of the other specifically that were included in your packet, there were some overall staff comments about what it actually takes for and probably what needs to be evaluated long-term as it relates to community septic and what the state would be looking for and what's required. Essentially, an overall approval as it relates to having a certified operator based upon the size of what we can really only estimate at this particular time in terms of the net gallons that would be processed based on residential uses, the number of homes. So that's something that staff certainly made mention that needed to be included in there, and just the overall maintenance on the ongoing maintenance, if you will, on a system such as that. So that information is included in there. So just to really recap, again, as it relates to the overall land use plan and net density, there was no issue. Certainly that it does comply with the overall land use plan, but based upon the other community the facility, the on-site facility needs of this, we don't have enough information at this time to grant any recommendation other than what staff has put forward, which was a denial just based upon the lack of information on site suitability and how it would impact the overall site layout.
Thank you much. Okay, if some of y'all were here for the hearing, this is gonna be a little different. The protocol for this would be, we're gonna hear those for it, and then we're gonna hear those against. If there's a large group that's against, if y'all would pick a representative to cover all the points that you'd like to cover, in the interest of time, that way, we can move along a little smoother. So at this point, the applicant here, if he'd like to come up and present his case for annexations first, right? All right, we're going to take this concurrently, annexation and approval for rezoning.
So I can understand, please, and I thank you for clarifying it. Is there going to be, like you said, an opportunity for others to speak in favor as well?
Yes,
Okay, and what is my time allowance and what is their time allowance?
10 minutes
Is that total for both, or is that total for each?
each.
Okay, great.
But if there's others to speak on your side, then I'll accept more than one on the other side.
Okay, great, thank you. Will there be any rebuttal time or me opportunity if I save my, like, if I do 5 minutes and save 5 minutes so that I can help address some of the issues if I'm not aware of them?
Hang on. It is allowable, okay. And the same would go for both sides.
Okay, that's fine. I
Okay.
think that, okay. Well, again,
Chris, we're using this microphone.
this one here? Okay.
Oh, one other thing, too.
Yes, sir.
The hearing was a lot less formal than this. Any questions, remarks, or anything, just directed to us and not to each other, and that'll also keep things moving professionally and smooth.
No, I appreciate
Robert's rules, otherwise known as Bob's rules, but just talk to
Keep it
to
first
us.
name, yeah.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Vicki and I have been communicating pretty diligently. The concern that I have, though, is that this is the first I've heard from Vicki. I haven't received an email, phone call, or anything, and it's been going on for quite a while. And everything that I quoted about the septic, I've deferred to the state and to what needs to be done. I don't think now is the appropriate time to have a denial, especially without me giving the opportunity. If they were to say, look, we need to have A, B, C, and D, or we're going to recommend denial, I could have addressed that. I have put out publicly that this is really and I haven't been corrected, that this is a question for the state on what the opportunity is. And we will have all those numbers, we'll have everything. So, and I think that given the ordinance for Villa Rica having a progressive septic system, that we more than comply. And also the fact that we're going to have an innovative 2 steps. One is that we're going to divide the black and white water, so the housing will be like equal to one house per acre. And then 2 is that we have the opportunity to prove with this septic system, with my cash bond, that's going to be a cash, it's not going to be anything else, that we should cover the issues. So I would like to address this issue that this neighbor is in favor of it with a letter. This neighbor is so in favor that he's going to speak on behalf of it because he's here. And that if we look at the distance of green space between any of the neighbors that could possibly object, it's impossible that even if there were to be a septic failure, which will not happen, but let's just put it out there as high as it could be, not only will they not see this because there are mobile homes right here that they can see with some of the drug problems, people running through the yards and stuff, but you won't even be able to see this development. So it's actually better than anything else because you all have enough experience to know if someone were to come in here and put in comparable lots of a subdivision that they have, we would be clear-cutting everything, and they'd be looking at each other.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say.
Do I need to, okay, so, this would be better anyways. This will be easier for everybody. And I want you all to see it. Hopefully, can you all see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so my hope is there's only one other neighbor right here, and they've got really quite a substantial house. I was very surprised to find out that this person could even be remotely concerned about it and be objecting to complimentary $300,000 homes. And the quality of the homes at $100,000 per square foot, when you're doing comps, I've got a real estate agent's letter here also, actually substantiates and reinforces higher values for everybody. And I'll reserve the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of this? If you could give us your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name's Henry Puckett. I own this property here. It's beside the Kersey's property. And I'm here basically to tell you how I even got involved in this. I got a letter from Mr. Hunt detailing what he was going to do, telling me who he is. And so the first thing I did when I saw that was I went to do some research. I looked at at his website, some of the products that they're producing, Greencrete especially, and some of the technology that they're using building these houses, and I got kind of excited about it. And so I called him then after I'd done some research and talked to him for a bit, and seemed to be a good thing for Villa Rica. Admittedly, my mobile rentals, I'm not proud of them. I live in Franklin, North Carolina, 3 hours away, and maintaining property is not easy. I've tried several different people to manage it for us. That hasn't worked out too good either. We bought that property in '83. We were the only ones there when we bought it, and bought it with a plan of developing it for ourselves and our son. You know, things changed, and so we are in Franklin, North Carolina now. We left Villa Rica in 2002, went to Florida. God called me to a church there for a few years, and then he called me to Franklin, North Carolina, and it looks like that's where we're going to be for the rest of my life. And so my decision, my wife and I decided we wanted to sell that property rather than have it 3 hours away. And I put it on the market before I found out about all of this. Janet told me when we had been texting a little bit that they were opposed to this, and I guess I understand why, and I don't either. You know, I kind of see both sides of this thing, but it seems to me that these will be great buildings. It seems to me that it's going to be a feather in Villa Rica's hat. And change is going to happen one way or another. I mean, it's the same way in Franklin, North Carolina. What I like to see, at least for my life, as change happens, and people I know, let's try to promote that change in a positive direction. And as far as the people that these houses will appeal to, it seems to me that fits in very well with the millennial demographic. As a pastor, I end up trying to stay up current on how different people groups see things. And millennials, this last group, they don't like to do yard work. They don't like to do maintenance. They want their time to be their time. And so the fact that these things are termite-proof, fire-proof, mold-proof, I can't help but think that's all good. And the fact that their life expectancy is not 40 or 50 years. It's hundreds of years. And so I thought it was a good thing. And that's why I picked up the phone and called Mr. Hunt to begin with. And I think it can be a good thing for Villa Rica. I understand that it's different and that it's different in the area. But different's not necessarily bad if it can be steered in the right direction. I understand some of the concerns too, and I would hope that everyone will agree to see if they can be resolved so that it can be a benefit to everyone. Because if you do end up with those $300,000 houses, all of your properties are going to be worth much more money. You don't think so?
You have to address us.
Oh, sorry.
He baited you, so it's not y'all's fault. He should have talked to us.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I'm in North Carolina now. Didn't plan for things to work out the way they did, but that's where I am. And miss Villa Rica, miss my friends. But that's the way it is right now, so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else like to speak in favor? No takers? Okay. All right. Who would like to speak in opposition? And if you'd like to communicate with each other or whatever, you can have up to 2.
My name is Kevin Kersey. I live at 65 Church Road, alias Baghdad Bob. But we would just like to set the stage on things, because this is real important to me as far as truth and character when we're dealing and coming before anything, because you guys are having to list. You don't know us fully, and you don't know the developer fully. But from the very beginning that we started, and all this is on video and recorded, and I have the letters and documents with his signatures on it that he has sent, out into the community, illegally in some cases. But from the very start, he said there is little to no opposition. Well, I came before you and handed you a petition that represented 95% plus of the people within a half mile of there. And the developer said, well, that's not valid, that's cheating. It's all in his words in the copies there that we have. And so he said only a petition after May 13th that he was to meet with people would be a valid one. So we have for you one that has been signed now after that date, and you can have this for your records. And have this, and a lot of people are even on vacation right now, but it ought to show you that his statements, and they're written, I have his statements here from his letters. He states, and I quote, everyone is now opposed to the petition. Well, look at that document that's legal right there, and then listen to what he said. Everyone is opposed to that. That's not true. That didn't come from me. That came from him. His other statement, everyone now hates the petition. So these are not true statements. I was accused in his writing of threatening in a letter to Vicki that he wrote, maybe forgot that was on public domain. It was on our website, where he insinuated that I actually threatened the mayor and the city council, which was just very untrue. I said all this for one reason, because I wanted to talk about the sewer issue, but I said all this to say one reason. How can you believe when he gets up here and tells you what this is going to be, what's made out of, that this old perk, that all this kind, when a person puts stuff in print and his signature on it in black and white that is undeniable, that's character. And let me say, even the person that he met with 2 people, but those people are not even supporting him. And when he went around and did what he just did, the people he was told about don't live here. Henry doesn't live here. The other gentlemen that sell him to other land, they don't live here. They're not part of the community. So that was a blatant misrepresentation of truth. And again, I'm going to ask you, if he'll do that, then why would you believe when he gets up here and starts pointing all stuff that that's true too, and just take his word for it? He's not built one of these before. There's nowhere, and then we're asked on the sewer issue. And now that it's out that Villa Rica does not want to furnish sewer over there at this time, that we're stuck, we can't do septic tanks, so it's private system. Then the question comes up, well, the land's Carroll County. Why wouldn't Carroll County do that? Call the commissioners. They have had failure after failure in Carroll County with private sewer systems, and the taxpayers are on the hook for that. No matter what he tells you about this system, septic tank lines are septic tank lines, whether they come out of a septic tank or whether they come out of a private sewer system. This property, and you can go back 50 years with people all around Van Wert Road, Church Road, Pleasant Grove Road. I've lived there 27 years, all the way around it. They have serious perking problems. That's why the people have acreage. And to come and say I can put 40-something units on this land and his drawings that he drew, I didn't draw them, they have septic fields everywhere on land that doesn't perk very well. That makes no sense, you know. And I think any valid soil scientist would tell you that very little of that land, that's why it would take acreage, you know, a couple of acres per house, and that you could do things. That's what people have around there. And so we have people sitting here from this community who have private systems because their land won't perk. Others who have acreage and still struggle with perking issues. And so to allow this to come in, the potential for failure on that, and then the city's on the hook for it. And they don't want to maintain a private sewer system. But he's off the hook as soon as the bond's over. And by the way, $50,000 laid down to maintain it would maintain it for a year. And so the amount of money that it would cost and the taxpayers, it would be a black eye, you know, for the city of Villa Rica. And then it would be atrocious for us because this fails, this is our neighborhood. And so just on the septic alone would be a valid reason to say this is not the place to dump 40-plus houses and just strew it with septic lines. And so I would just encourage you, you know, to think that one through and ask the right questions to the right people, and they'll tell you. I'm not making any of this up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We could do it this way. If one other person would like to come up for 10 minutes, or I'll take 2 for 5. That way keep everything even.
My name is Rick Oyler. I live at 1210 South Van Wert Road, basically right across from the property he's talking about. First of all, I would like, and I gave you a copy of that letter. I know you probably haven't read it yet, and I understand, but I would personally like to apologize to Mr. Kersey. The things that were said about him were absolutely deplorable. Mr. Kersey has been a minister next to my house for 18 years. And for anybody to say this about him, whether he's from Buckhead, whether he's from North Carolina, whether he's from Douglasville, I just do not understand why anybody would put that in writing. Now, my own personal house, I am on my 3rd septic system. I have 10 acres across from this property. I have had soil scientists come out. I've had percolation tests done. They all say, oh, Mr. Oyler, it's going to perk. We're going to put your lines here. And they take my money, they put it in the ground, and guess what? 3 or 4 years later, they're back again. I have enough acreage. I just spent another $8,000 on my one personal house. Fact. Come and see it. You can really discuss this all you want, but when it comes down to it, the fact is, in his own letter, he states, right here on page 2, and he quotes the ordinance number, the city may consider proposals for the use of experimental, and that's what this is, on-site sewage management systems. Acceptance or denial of such proposals shall depend on many site and system-specific factors. And that's where the soil scientist is going to come out and say, oh yeah, this will perk over here, or it'll perk over here. And then when that perk runs out, you got to buy a new system. The last line says this, including a primary consideration that the remainder of the site is suitable for a conventional septic tank system in the event of failure of the experimental system. He comes in, he gets his money, or he goes bankrupt, he gives you $50,000, and you got to bring sewer 3,000 feet to fix the problem. Where in the world does that make any sense? It does not. And the proposal we gave you and signed by everybody, and all these stupid ignorant people out here, as he says in his letter, have lived there, have spent money there, live in this community, love this community. I've been here for 19 years. And one thing I'll tell you, I came through the city on Saturday, and I saw all the flags. And being a retired 30-year Army vet, I smiled, because that's what I want to keep it, is that type of community. And I guess it's because of those flags that this guy can write a letter like this and get away with it in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, you only used just under 5 minutes. Got somebody else?
Hi, excuse me. I'm Julie Rensink. I live at 114 Autumn Run Place and have been for 15 years. And first of all, I want to go on record and say that Mr. Hunt is not correct when he calls me and my neighbors liars and cheaters. And that's exactly what he did in that letter that he addressed to the mayor and the city council, because we did do our research on these traffic issues. I have all of my sources noted here, and I have copies for each of you. My research and comments are a direct dispute to his contention that his development meets for the requirements of the Steinberg Act and the Official Code of Georgia Annotated Section 3667-1. That is in his paragraph D of his statement of intent he submitted on March 5th. A large number of us believe that his proposed development will cause an excessive and burdensome use of the existing streets. A fact of South Van Wert is that on the comprehensive plan of Carroll County, South Van Wert is a local road, which is defined as to provide low volume and low speed to access private property. The traffic facts from the Georgia State Patrol Post 4 are that there were 9 collisions on South Van Wert in 2016, and we've already had 5 this year. That's 1 per month. I have all of those crash report numbers for you, so there's my facts. I am not reporting false data as he claims. Our school buses, we have approximately 50 school buses that travel South Van Wert during morning and afternoon routes. This number increases as the needs arise in the county. It also does not include the students being bused to the work program at Southwire, field trips, or to the north campus of the Carroll County College and Career Academy, which is right beside Villa Rica High School. They also transport all the middle school and high school activities for athletics, bands, chorus competitions, etc. So if you take into account all the football games, the band competitions, the cheerleaders, softball, basketball, da-da-da-da-da-da, you can guess how many buses are up and down that road. My children get on the bus at the end of our road. I can't tell you how many times they've almost been hit by the speeders and the excessive traffic. So if Mr. Hunt has submitted this plan, which is his second plan, the first plan suggested 24 homes. Now we're up to 40. Who's to say that he's not going to build these 13 little mini mansions, he calls them? Those sell well. Okay, well, let's just do away with those other 27. Let's build 50 more mini mansions. No telling how many cars we're going to increase. The road can't handle it. Where it floods across South Van Wert, it's already been repaired. I can't tell you how many times, because the road cannot handle the traffic and the flooding. Back to the whole same thing. Then again, he has suggested that he would fix the traffic problem with his private funding of either a 3-way stop, a roundabout, or a traffic signal. Well, according to the Carroll County Public Works Department and the Georgia Department of Transportation, private money cannot pay for that. You cannot pay for any signage or road improvements with private money. There's the facts. It is not emotional, fear-mongering, or whatever it was he said in that last letter with the Baghdad Bob nonsense. I have my facts. I have copies for each of you.
Okay. Oh, sure, no problem.
My facts are noted.
Okay.
I am not a liar or a cheat.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, at this time, you got your 5 minutes back up for a rebuttal.
to ask in fairness, if I could go a little bit over the time to address thoroughly everything, because this is an important matter, and I would like to ask, in consideration of the importance of this there we go, that I'd be allowed to have a little bit of extra time to address all the issues thoroughly. First of all, I want to apologize to each of you because I know that these are people that you know personally. It infuriates me that what I wrote has been taken out of context. I never called anybody stupid. I never called anybody foolish. I'm talking to y'all. And I never said anything like that. What I said was they were taken advantage of with a secret neighborly visit, unbeknownst to me, which is true, and that's the cheating and that's the lying. If the person had the integrity to address these issues openly, I could have addressed them more thoroughly and accurately. The fact still remains that the issue comes down to like the military. Excuse me, I'm hanging an American flag outside of my subdivision. If someone's going to pull that crap and try to play on patriotism, that's a great offense to me. My favorite uncle survived the Korean War. Okay, I went to a military school. That's the kind of underhanded, sabotaging comments that play on emotions and psychology instead of facts. How about if we get that guy to be a war hero and go out in a World War I tank that doesn't have all this electronic, crazy, dangerous stuff that can fail on a tank that can take out? Okay? This is like someone saying, I want my World War I tank, instead of going out in modern thing and just stuck in it and going to slander and say, oh, well, maybe if an electronic fuse breaks, this tank will be useless. That's the kind of stuff that we're dealing with here. And let's put it straight. I'd like to ask a question if you all happen to know. Does Villa Rica prohibit private funds from fixing up anything? And I don't think there is a law that I'll look at it and see. These are the kind of things that need to be flushed out in a public meeting with people that really care for the advancement and care enough and are open and intelligent enough to have an open dialogue and say, hey, look, these are all real concerns. We need to have an answer back within 2 weeks or we're going to have to object to this. If they had been willing to do that, I could put forth the answers that they need, and I'd be happy to. Anytime I was addressed with something, I would get right to it and I'd find the solution, and I'd provide it. What we're hearing here are people that don't even vote in Villa Rica, from what I understand. They're citizens of Carroll County, and it's really interesting because someone said, when I said these are like the Tesla of homes, the person said, I thought Teslas were illegal. Well, driving out this very evening, I saw 2 tractor-trailer car carriers full of Teslas coming in. So I Siri'd, hey, I gotta be careful, I don't want to set her off. Hey, how many Teslas have been sold in Georgia? And I want to apologize. I'm not talking to y'all, but I'm going to say when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Actually, there's a law that Georgia stupidly said they could only sell, I think it's 500 or some number, I forgot what the number, 150 or 500, whatever it is, Teslas. And you know what they're doing? Georgia, despite their stupid, antiquated, money-bought politicians, is causing all the tax money from $100,000 Teslas, where they're opening up another a fourth dealership in Alpharetta to sell, because they're giving the money to California instead of Georgia pocketing it. Now I want to know what kind of leaders you all are. Are you the type of leaders that are going to sit there and say, you know what, if Vicki had gotten in touch with him and said, hey, Mr. Hunt, you're going to need to answer these questions first, not after the fact. Can you get me these answers? I could have gotten certified letters, registered numbers, everything. I thought it was a matter afterwards that I'm willing to take the risk. About the concern about mini homes, increasing the number. We all know that zonings are per lot, per unit, per acre. I can't put all those homes there. I wouldn't put those homes there. There's a certain demographic group with a new hospital, with a new group. There needs to be $300,000 homes. This subdivision is so good and so advanced and has such amenities that you're going to attract this tax base. You want this annexation. I promise you, just like the story that I told where other people came in with incredible stories opposing it, that the commissioners saw through it all and simply asked the people, do you really have anything, can Mr. Hunt do anything more for you? And they just overruled them, and everybody gets along fine. and everything's good. I understand what your concerns are. I'm empathetic. There's such misquotes here, and it's based on irrational fears. And I'm sorry, that road, South Van Wert, is going to be changed. It's going to change to another designation. Are we prepared for that? I'm willing to help plan and do whatever is necessary to fix problems that are not existing. And what's going to happen is if someone could come with a 2 + 2 = 4 fact in opposition instead of emotionalization and instead of character assassination, and I stand by every word I said, because if they took it out of context, I said once people find out the truth, they will oppose it. I didn't say that it's 100%. I said conditionally, once they find out the truth, once they see that they've been played. And all I can say is that I am a man of my word. I'm a minister. And in fact, the neighbor that lives there was upset and rebuked the guy and said, I came to your church. You never reached out to me, never did anything. And now you're going to come here and ask me to oppose something that I'm a neighbor to? You're a hypocrite. And asked him, hit the guy in the head to leave the house.
Okay, you've got about 2 minutes left.
So let's get to the facts. I'm willing to, before the next meeting, or because this is a new incident that's coming up, this is either going to be a political ploy that's an excuse that, this experimental whatever. I'm willing to address those factual questions that Vicki will send to me on behalf of the city. I'll address those, and I'll get the answers that'll satisfy them. Other than that, I'm in full compliance, and I don't know what else to do, and I'm willing to sit there and invest in Villa Rica because Henry Puckett is like a native here. He didn't go into his full history. He didn't just buy this. He was raised in this area. In fact, I think he's got a couple minutes, and he could clarify what kind of a native he is. And it's just that he moved away. And so I cannot find anything here except for emotionalized statements that, understandably, it's new, it's kind of be scary, and I wish I could have had a heart-to-heart meeting because the people that were at the library meeting actually said, hey, we only signed that because our neighbor was so vehement about it and that we actually withdraw it. And if those people were here, I think that they would actually stand up, and there's been such lies. You're here? Oh, there you are.
Okay, it's out of order. Okay, thank you for your time. That's it. You're done.
Thank you.
All right, because we allowed him a little more time, if someone else on the other side would like to give a rebuttal. And we'll give you 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, we're emotional. It's our community. We live here. We should be emotional. But the real truth of the matter is, when he talks about veterans and his uncle, I'm a Vietnam vet. I have 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars with V, served for 30 years. So I'll be emotional if I want to. I'm sorry. 2 people he's talking about that signed or went to his meeting, they're here. They signed our petition. Their names are on it tonight. They're against it. I quoted about experimental systems. I read you from his letter and his quote. It is an experimental system, by all fact and by all means. I know you probably haven't had a chance to read this letter. I read it many, many times, and it's the most deplorable thing I have ever read in my life about people that he knows absolutely nothing about.
Thank you, sir. At this time, the public section is closed. Do the board have any questions, or does the board have any questions for staff?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So, my understanding of what you said, that you would need, and I think in his letters that you would need the laboratory data, that's in the need for the laboratory data and the engineering reports is in our codes, is that correct?
The I'm not sure that I'm understanding, but you mean the soil reports, the
Yeah,
soil
the soil
investigation?
reports and it's required by our codes.
Right, so typically what it requires is that if you're doing a septic system, that you have to get signed off by the health department. However, due to the volume, if you will, that this site would actually require under this community septic, the health department doesn't handle that, and it goes straight to EPD. So anytime you're looking at that, you'll submit that information. That actually is what determines ultimately if the soil is suitable to handle the septic system or the community septic, how much also needs to be set aside based for a reserve field, and then ultimately that dictates the number of total lots that would be there. So overall site layout, how much needs to be set aside for a replacement field, all of those are determined based upon what information comes back from the health department, or in this particular case, because of its community septic over 10,000 gallons per day, EPD.
All right, and have you got any of that information from the applicant?
No.
Okay.
Has the application been made to EPD?
I-
Knowledge.
You have to defer to the applicant. That hasn't been submitted to me. Based upon what I've heard from those at EPD, the gentleman that I spoke to is not aware.
When, Vicki, did you get this modified plan? When we first heard this, I believe there were 24 houses to be built there. Now it's 40. When did you receive this information?
We received the information right about the time of the last Planning Commission meeting. So approximately, I'll just say a month ago, he made reference that he had contracted some additional acreage and updated the site plan with the application.
And so also, I guess what I've heard and read, it's required to have a second plan or for, in case the system doesn't work, that each house can have its own septic field and septic system. Is that correct?
That is correct. With the EPD or the health department, what they do now is certainly require that there be an equal amount of area for where you're putting your original septic system in. If it's, for example, if it was an individual site, you would have to set aside an equal amount for a replacement.
All right. Have you seen any plans for that from the applicant?
No, that
Okay.
information should have been documented with what would have come from the state.
All right.
Are you familiar with any systems like are being proposed anywhere nearby?
There is a system, I believe, it's in the subdivision, is in the unincorporated area of the county. It's called, I believe it's Indian Lake. I've only had an opportunity to talk to the health department about what the county's experience has been with it, and certainly there was some challenges with the homeowner association. What was communicated to me, I don't know if it dissolved or it, but in terms of determining the overall ownership and how that's being managed, that has created some challenges. The health department, because they don't do any of the plan review on those communal systems, they will not address any of the issues, and they just defer back to the state since they are the original approver of the permit for a communal system when problems arise.
How many homes are involved in that?
That I can't tell you. I don't know.
Not that many. It's over on Ledbetter Road, between 61 and Harlan Lane. It's probably got less than a dozen houses on it, and it's mostly undeveloped. And the septic system's up at the front towards Ledbetter.
No further questions from me.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you, Vicki. Okay, at this point, do I have a motion from the Planning Commission?
I make a motion based on the city's denial request, the lack of engineering reports, the lack of information from EPD on the suitability of the system, that we deny the request for both the annexation and the rezoning.
I have a motion to deny both the annexation and the rezoning.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of denial of the annexation and rezoning, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries to deny both the rezoning and the annexation. Next up is conditional use 42-17.
This is a request for a conditional use permit. The applicant is Stewartsville Inc., represented by Ms. Sonia Tompier at 123 East Wilson Street, parcel number V0600200009. The request is to allow for the use of goats in the clearing of this particular site. The site currently is 2.94 acres. Just to give you an idea of what the current zoning and some of the surrounding uses. The majority of the surrounding zonings in the area are downtown commercial, mixed use. And just to the south of that, it's R14 multifamily. The majority of, again, the surrounding uses are also commercial and commercial office and residential single-family attached in other cases. Wait for the train.
Yeah, we'll wait for the train. We ought to do shots every time the train goes by. We'd have a much happier group here. I didn't say that. That's right. Would not be professional.
In terms of the conditional use evaluation criteria, the comprehensive plan does not expressly address livestock in the policies. However, the zoning district for that particular property is downtown commercial mixed use. The district does allow for mixing of uses that you would commonly find residential, office, commercial. Livestock, however, is customarily located in what would be agriculturally zoned districts. The adjacent properties that is currently zoned and used for residential, there may be some impact just with the two differing uses should the goats be allowed to be on the property. I will say the proposed use is not necessarily compatible with the adjacent uses, but the temporary use of goats to clear the property certainly has been considered by this particular commission and the city council. The use of goats in a residential area to clear property also has been recently taken up for consideration and approved by city council. So certainly there has been some recent action on that. There will be no impact based upon staff evaluation on any of the existing facilities. So based upon just the recent action of the council, particularly in what would be residential areas, staff is recommending approval, but approval with certainly some conditions as it relates to securing the area and making sure that the fence that's securing the area is at least set back from the area that's designated as commercial frontage where other commercial businesses or offices may be.
So the fence doesn't exist. I took a look. I couldn't see any fencing there. Was there?
That's what I would propose as a condition for
Okay.
making sure that the site is certainly secured. If you're going to support the approval of it, and also provide a maximum of 5 goats, which would certainly be consistent with what was approved by mayor and council previously for a similar request.
All right, thank you. Would the applicant or representative of the applicant please step forward and tell us why we should consider goats?
Good evening. My name is Sonia Stewart Tompier. I'm an RN and have been in Villa Rica 20-plus years. I'm currently at 224 South Caroline Street. I have owned and operated a healthcare company some 20-plus years, beginning with the personal care home with the likes of Councilman Best Fathers, Dana Wynn's aunt, Barbara Flores Pearl, which was her aunt, with the visits frequently from Dr. Boss. I have a plot which has been surveyed and plans drawn per architect to fulfill a lifelong dream of mine, which was somewhat caved after the passing of my husband. In order to prepare the land to its glory and beauty, Nigerian goats would be most appropriate. Process, not using chemicals, would exacerbate one of my neighbors who has COPD and is on oxygen. Also, next door, adjacent to the land, there are children, which chemicals would not be the best for them. A little bit or a synopsis of Nigerian dwarf goats. This is a breed that came out of West Africa. The goats get as far as my knee. They were brought from Africa on the ships. They're populous pets. They're very small in stature. They're registered by the American Dairy Goat Association, the American Goat Society, and the Nigerian Dwarf Society. The behavior of these goats. Nigerian dwarf goats are gentle and easily trainable. They also are so small they come into your homes. Others prefer to let the mother raise them naturally, but my goats per breeder were bottle fed. So they are very friendly to children as well as everyone. The pups that I'm preparing to have with these goats are called Caricature dogs, which are a Bulgarian breed. And Dr. Phil Spungberg, who is a vet from the Virginia Tech, brought these goats over from Bulgaria. They're very friendly as well. Also, I have a letter that was written by my vet who I've used over the years since being in Villa Rica, and that is from Stewart. And he said, to whom it may concern, I spoke to Sonia Tompier last week regarding goats and 2 dogs that she will house at 123 East Wilson, Villa Rica. I have agreed to be her veterinarian for these animals. Please feel free to contact the clinic for any information that you may need. Also, the former mayor, Jay, is here to speak on my behalf. Thank you. Oh, and here are the plans for Stewart's work.
Okay.
So this will be an assisted living, what I've done majority of my years here in Villa Rica.
So that's what's eventually going to go on?
Yes.
Okay.
I assume there's no zoning problem with
Beg your pardon?
that facility.
I don't know yet. We're just talking about the conditional use of the goats. But I don't think so. Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am. Would anyone else like to speak in favor? And please give us your name and address, please.
My name is James Collins. My address is 206 South Carroll Road
Who?
in Villa Rica, Georgia.
Okay.
And how appropriate that we're going to be talking about goats after that goat roping we just heard.
That's right.
Ms. Tompier came to me when I saw the conditional use application sign and asked me if I would come and be in support of this. That property was cleared off many years ago, and it's grown up. With that growth comes a lot of creatures, such as possums and raccoons and snakes and mice and rats and those kind of things. I'm not an expert on the, is it a Belgian? You said a Belgian goat? Nigerian goat, okay, on a Nigerian goat, but I think that it'll be a good thing to help clear that off. The aspects of being environmentally friendly that she raises, I completely agree with that. I think it'd be worth a shot trying it. You know, if for some reason it does have a negative impact on the quality of life of the neighborhood, I know that we could always come back to the council, and the council revisit that issue, but I don't see it being a problem or being a issue as far as I'm concerned there with the business that I own and have cleaned up some of that property as well. So I'll just ask for your favorable consideration to my neighbor. She's always been a woman of her word with integrity and someone you can trust. And so look at her track record and please consider voting favorably for this request.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in favor? People, goats, anybody? Okay. At this time, is there anyone in opposition to this? Please come forward. Okay. At this point, the public section is closed. Any questions, further questions for staff?
I have a question. You're planning on constructing this senior facility or?
Oh, you talked, please. Well, I closed the public section.
Regardless, the point being, you're going to clear this land. Why not just go in and clear it? So you're going to construct something there. Why bother with, why have the interim situation with goats? Go in and clear the land for construction.
Okay.
Why goats? Why chemicals? Go in and clear it out.
Why not?
You want to bring her back up, I guess, since there's no
Yeah.
opposition?
Can we have questions? I have a question for the applicant too, so.
If you'd like, come on back up. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, if you want to direct that question again.
You're planning on constructing a facility in this land, right?
Correct.
Why not, I don't know what the plans are for that, but why not just go in and clear it out? Why bother with goats?
It would allow me to walk the land and feed the land and see where I am financially and what this would do for me. So that's why I need to feed the land and walk the land, because whenever any of us do anything, we sit back and look at it, and I'm not a person that just jumps out and do things. This is what I want to do, and I want to be able to see it and walk it. I'm sure everybody that buys property do anything, those are some of the things that they do.
Okay. I guess my question is, when I saw it from the roads, it was so dense in there, but there was like a density of brush and trees, and I know, I'm not a goat expert, but to me it would be, and it's just an opinion, that you would need to do some bush hogging or something, because there's trees and growth and stuff like that as well. The other applicant that we denied, but it got passed by the city council, that had goats, they had mostly, it was a kudzu issue, but the goats were able to go around the property, et cetera. And I guess, goats can eat so much and chew on so much. I don't know, like, if you have the trees that are still in the way, and they could be this big around, but there was just a ton of them. And I went on the commercial side as well as that road that you go down Stone, and it's right there. I don't know where, but anyways, and I couldn't even see through there. Is it that dense all the way through?
The guy that's going to do the shrubbery is going to just do the bottom portion so the goats can get to the rest of it.
Okay.
So there is someone who has been hired to get a brush to brush that so they can go through and do their thing.
Okay. Is there a clearing? I guess that's what I'm saying. In the middle, I couldn't see. Is there any type of clearing in the middle of that property anywhere, or is it all very dense all the way through?
No, it shouldn't be all the way through. No.
Okay. That was my question.
My question is a fence. So I think to protect the neighbors, you need a good fence. Do you have a type of fence you're gonna put up? You gonna put chain link fence, or you hiring somebody?
In the front will be a custom fence that would say Stewart's Village. So that would be the gate there forever. So that's the gate that would, a company would come out and custom. Everything else will be a surrounded, inexpensive gate that they can get out of. And then at that particular time, the gate will actually be secured all around, but it would be custom.
Are you gonna have the guy with the brush hog, will he brush hog for the fence also so you can put it in? Because what I seen, almost like you have to clear a little bit just to get the fence in.
Yes.
Okay. But you don't know, is it barbed wire fence, chain link fence? You have an idea what?
Hog wire, short hog wire,
It
dense
would
hog wire.
be a farm fence with wood with the wire there with the electrical that's at the top of it and the electrical at the bottom.
What's the height of your fence gonna be? You have to know these answers because this is a goat and
Okay,
you're in animal,
Yes, it will
you're in
be.
animal husbandry, so you
Yeah,
need to
the fence
know.
will be 7 feet and the goats get no further than my knee.
Okay,
So
the-
that gate will actually, when the company comes out and do the
But-
custom fence, that's what the fence will be.
But the placing of a Gallagher electrical fence at 7-foot height on a 2-foot goat has the effect of,
You can't see the electrical wire.
no ma'am, you're stating for the record that you're gonna place the electrical wire at 7 feet. And your pygmy goat is approximately 2.5 to 3 feet tall. Okay, so why place the wire at the sky's limit out of reach?
Well, the gate itself, the custom gate will be 7 feet.
Okay, but the
Right,
fence
so
itself.
what about the rest of the property? You got the gate covered at the driveway.
Yes.
What about the rest of the property?
Okay, it'll be 5.
Because the rest of the people here would like to know, in your condition,
Mhm.
how are you going to protect them from the goats running through their neighborhood, eating their shrubbery, eating their grass, eating the nice manicured front lawn and at the funeral home, and over at Phil Blair's insurance agency? How are you going to be able to secure your animals in the enclosure? And don't tell me the gate.
I'm not following you. Please articulate.
Okay. You're going to put up, I guess we need to,
Is it a 7-foot?
I have a motion. I motion we table for 1 month till we get the details worked out of the enclosure of the animals safely upon the property from the applicant and for the applicant and for the general public. That's my motion.
So, just to clarify the motion, you want the applicant to provide a drawing of the fence you propose?
Type of fence and
the type
height.
of fence, height and
Yes. It can be on
Okay.
on a simple sheet of paper. It does not take much, but we need to know what you're going to do, because you're not only going to get this question from us, you're going to get it from city council, and it'll be a lot worse than us.
All right, I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to table this until the applicant can provide specifications for fencing for Nigerian goats. And we have a second?
Yes.
All those in favor of recommend tabling this until that information is gathered, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries 3-1 to table this. Conditional use. All right. Next up,
Yes.
staff comments by Vicki Coleman. Oh, yeah.
I have really no additional comments at this time unless you have some for me.
I do.
Okay.
Upon review of the county records, light by accident on my part, on a whole nother, it's very personal, search by me for another issue altogether. I'll wait.
Okay, if everybody could, if you're gonna leave, leave quietly. Pretend this is a library. And I'm the librarian with the glasses with the chain on it. That's better. See it work, the glasses. There we go.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Last March the 1st of 2016, on the agenda of the Carroll County Board of Commissioners, under the planned unit under zoning, as presented by Artegas Newell, the zoning administrator, planned unit development was discussed. The title of this was Consideration of a Resolution and Ordinance to Amend the Code of Ordinances of Carroll County to repeal planned unit development PUD zoning district. Grandfather previously approved in existing PUD units. It is a document that I have a copy of, and it had its hearing, its readings, and it was approved May the 3rd. It was actually approved in March, and by the ratification of the minutes of the May 3rd, 2016 meeting, it was approved and codified by the county. It basically says that planned unit developments will no longer are not in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Carroll County, as reflected by the lack of necessary infrastructure to support PUDs. And there was a public hearing on February 23rd at 6:30 p.m. in the administration building at 423 College Street in Carrollton, and therefore is now resolved and ordained. I'm paraphrasing, you see. One, repeal planned unit development zoning district is hereby repealed to the extent it is not an available zoning district from the date of an adoption of the ordinance and shall no longer be a part of the Carroll County zoning ordinance for which application can be made. The parcels that have been previously zoned PUD shall be grandfathered, and the repeal of the planned unit development PUD zoning will not affect them. Grandfather clause says that they're grandfathered. Effective date is upon the adoption of the ordinance, and there's a severability clause, and it was signed in March of 2016 by Mr. Smith. There are six PUDs in the county. The biggest one we know of is Fairfield. They're the ones there, but there are two up by us, Ledbetter Road, and then there's one up above, just off of 101, right at the county line. There's three down in the Carrollton area. So I wanted to bring this to our attention that that was an action that has taken place around us, and we should be aware of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Larry. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, so on the comprehensive plan, do you have any status on that as far as upcoming? I mean, I know maybe you want this job, but right now you're temporary, I understand, so any movement, and I know the council's been really busy with the city manager, but just wondering if there's any movement on the comprehensive plan and the person that's going to be in charge of that department.
So as far as I'm aware, there has not been a person permanently put into the position. I think I may have mentioned it to this group before. Certainly that would be something that would be at the top of the list to start. What I can tell you just from my experience of having gone through this, probably for a city similarly sized, certainly I think it's possible to get through a comprehensive plan. I would imagine probably by May or June of next year to have one wrapping up. If one is able to get started, fairly soon, it's certainly possible to do. So.
When does our tenure, is it up now, or when does the 10 years?
It's required that it be adopted by October 30th, 31st of next year.
Okay.
Typically, it'll go through a planning process, and then a draft is submitted to the state for their final review. So you just want to make sure you have it in enough time for them to review it, give you any comments back if necessary, and then you adopt by October.
2018. All right,
Correct.
thank you.
Oh, we have this copy of the petition that was from that prior, for y'all's records. Okay, all right. You got anything, Vicki? Okay, thank you, Vicki.
Welcome.
All right, next up is public comment. Those who are left, if you'd like to get up and say something, you have up to 10 minutes. No takers? All right. All right, at this point, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? We are adjourned.